Got everything held together with Tech screws. I've checked everything is in the right position. I'm now just going to put a few tacks along the seam just to hold it in place. I'll do that before I actually do the plug welds. So I'm just got to be careful I don't overheat the panel too much, but I'll keep moving around. I finished all the stitching between the Tech screws, but I really need more tacks in to hold the panel firmly in place. So I actually need to have tacks basically where the Tech screw is, on the edge of the flange. Now to do that, I guess if you're a very good welder, you might be able to do those with the Tech screws in place, and certainly some of them are far enough away from the edge where even I could do that, but others are fairly close. So what I do is to actually take the Tech screw out where I'm going to put the tack in, and I'll do those. I haven't taken all of them out. I've taken basically every fourth one out, and I'll tack those and then put the Tech screws back in place, and then gradually remove the others and do the same. So notice with some of these they're very close to the edge, so I probably would weld the Tech screw. So anyway, that's why I take them out. So I'll just continue putting these tacks. So as I say, got the ones between the Tech screws are all in place, they're good. Now I'll do the ones where the Tech screws are, so it'll just hold that panel firmly in place. Now all the tacks are in place, and I've put all the screws back in. Next process is to do the plug welds. Before I attempt that, what I do is to just check my MIG settings. So I use a piece of scrap and practice some plug welds on the scrap. Maybe a bit of an overkill, but I sometimes find that the settings do change a little bit. So, and it also helps just to practice. So I'll just do that and set the MIG up. So be on different settings than for the tack, but I'll just check those and then do this all over again, and this time once again removing every fourth screw and starting the plug welds. I've finished the plug welding, and you can see the penetration through the panel, which is good. It's quite solid. They need to be dressed off, of course. I haven't done that. I'll knock the tops off that with the grinder and then finish those welds there. And on this side I've started to grind off the welds. Just knock the tops off, and I'll go along with a sanding disc and flatten them back to the level of the panel. So there's a fair bit of grinding and sanding to do to get those right, but I'll knock those back. That's the next job. I've still got to do this corner piece. I've got to refold that round the wire and also then re-weld it. So I've still got that to do, but it's quite neat at this stage, and it's good to have that piece in place. Now the weld's all cleaned up. The only problem I've found is I did get distortion, and along the weld here there was shrinkage. So what's happened is that it's actually curved down. So now I've got to try and lift this back up. It's a little harder to get the shrinkage out because of the flanged weld, but it's coming out slowly, so I'll just have to persist with it. It's not too far out now. It's taken me probably the last hour to try and get it up. I'm up to about here, it's very close. In here it's still dipping down, so I've still got work to do. But what I'm finding is, as I'm going along, if I'm not careful, I'll fix these sections, and then when I address this end, it actually changes that. So what I've now been doing is getting these areas close, and then coming down here, gradually lifting these, and then going back and then lifting those again. So this stage up to about here is almost right. Here is a little bit out, and then it dips down, so a little bit more lifting up in this end, and I'll get it to where I want it to be. Now, as I've said with other repairs that I've done, at this stage I'll get it close, but not fully finished in terms of where you need to be when I'm about to address final undercoat or painting. So as I say, a fair bit of work to do, just time, using hammer, dolly, and even I've been using a wooden mallet just to tap up on the wired edge there. So anyway, it's a long, slow process. It's just keep chasing it until you get it right. As I said, it had heat distortion, it had curved in. Not only had it curved in, but it also, because of the wire in here, it bent the wire as well. So the wire basically went exaggerated, but like that, more curved up this way than the other end, of course, because the other end's got support. Specialised tools, wooden mallet, slapper, hammer, a couple of dollies, straight edges, blocks of wood, So whatever's necessary to try and get the thing straight. So what I've been doing is planishing the weld, hence the slapper and the dollies, and straightening this, and I've been using the mallet, mainly the mallet, and blocks of wood. So blocks of wood under the edge, mallet this way to try and gradually tap it down. Now I've had trouble with that because I've been using that block of wood on my knee and using that as a pivot point to knock down. Now that's been able to get some way, but in the end I used a larger piece of wood to prop that up onto the floor, so it was a little more solid than my knee, and that helped to straighten it out. So now this is straight, the curve is close. Now I've been using a profile gauge to check the curve as I go, and because I haven't touched the other guard, the other guard is the one I've been using as the template. It's the guard that wasn't accident damaged, so I've been taking profiles off that and using the profile to check the profiles on the repair section. So it's gradually coming back to the right shape. Is it finished? The answer to that is no. I've still got more to go, but at least now this is straight and the curve is a lot closer to the profile I need. So I've just got a bit more to do to fine tune that. Once I've got the profiles right, then I'll close this wide edge and weld that on. I'm not going to do that yet because if I do that, it's going to be a lot harder to move this panel around. As you can imagine, once I've connected that wire to the original wide edge, that locks it in, and if I'd done that earlier I would have made a lot more work for myself. So more time will be spent on this to get the profiles right. The actual finish is not too bad. I could work that a little bit more. There are a few low sections in here. I'll probably take those up as I'm profiling the panel. But it will need filler anyway. It needs filler to fill the seam here, because I don't continue the weld along there. To do that would add even more distortion. It's got enough weld in there to make that a very solid panel, as I've found out when I've been trying to straighten it. So these flange welds do need filler. Not a lot, just to fill the edge there and a little bit of the distortion that I can't get out because of the flange. So anyway, it'll be very, very little filler once I'm finished. But I'm not finished. As I say, 2.5 hours so far. How much longer? Probably at least another hour and a half, and then I'll start to lock it up. But it's going all right. I'm quite pleased with it. It's very solid. If you're concerned about whether these flange welds aren't solid, think again, because if anything, I think they're a lot more rigid than trying just to put a butt weld in there. But for me to do a butt weld, I would have ended up with a lot of problems, and I'd rather avoid that. This is certainly a good alternative. Now, still working on the right hand guard. What I'm doing is addressing the rust up in the section here where it joins the main middle part of the bonnet. There are a couple of small rust holes that go right through, right up under the bracket there, but what's happened is that where this piece sits around on the inside of the guard, it's actually rusted underneath. Now, some areas are hardly much of a problem, but up into here the metal's fairly thin, even though it hasn't rusted through. So what I've worked out is I need to cut at least this piece out here and replace it. I may go a little bit further. There's a bit down in here which I need to pick up. So what I've been doing, just turn that over. What I've been doing is preparing a patch panel for this. Let's say it's roughly there, go down to about there. So all this section needs to come out. Now, I've got a piece of metal, this piece here. This is the one I'm going to use. Let's get that. This is the one I'm going to use as the patch panel. So I've just curved this section of steel on the English wheel. I've got a small one in the workshop, and it's not hard to do that. It's just a straight curve, but the English wheel gives me a better finish. Now, I've got the curve right. Next, I've actually got to do a fold on here and get that so it fits down onto what I'll call a flange, but it's where it connects onto the bonnet centre section. Now, I'm not going to cut all of that centre section flange out because it's quite solid, but I want to get it enough so it comes in a little bit onto the flange rather than do a weld right along the edge there. So I'll see if I can bend this. I'm pretty sure I can bend that without destroying the curve. So that'll be the next step. I'll bend that. I still haven't determined how much of this I'm going to cut out. This is larger than the area that I've marked on the other side, but once I've got this fold, then I'll work out the final area to be cut. Then I'll cut this, put the repair section over the top and mark where that needs to be cut so it fits into a nice butt weld on the panel itself. I actually had to take the bracket off that was above this repair section, and of course when I've taken it off you can identify more rust. So there is actually a large rust hole in the flange itself, so I've got to be able to get that covered. The problem I also found is the actual bracket. Let's put it there. It's badly rusted in around here, and it's quite thin, so I'll have to remake the bracket. So just as well it came off. So that's not that hard. The repair section, I've decided to take it down a little bit once I've cleaned it up more, and I'll also take it out over to here. I've still got to mark the point somewhere about there. Now I should have enough in my repair piece here to do that. If I don't, I'll have to make another one, but once again that's not that difficult. So I'll just check that. Once I've checked where I'm going to cut, then I'll cut the section out that I want to replace. And you can see I've curved the bottom there. I don't want straight edges, a right angle weld. I want it curved so it's easier to weld and avoiding blow through. So just a bit more measuring, and then I need to cut the rust area completely out. I've now removed the area of rust. The patch panel is clamped behind the hole, and I've actually used a scribe to scribe around the edge of the hole, so I should have enough marks on there now to be able to take that patch off and then start to cut it back to size. Now, I've mentioned many times that I don't cut straight to the line, because if I do that and make an error, then I'm left with a gap, and I really don't want any gaps around the patch panel, because it will be TIG welded, and the absence of gaps makes it a little bit easier to weld. I've finally fitted this patch in place. It's just sitting there. It's not quite flush there, but I can hold that down with a clamp. The shape is pretty close. I can probably do a little bit of adjustment in shaping it on the bottom end there, but very close. I don't need to do any more filing. The after I do those little bits of reshaping, there's a little bit more curve on the end there, and then I'll start to tack this in place, ready for welding. Now, this patch went in better than I actually anticipated. It's only held in with tacks, but I had very little problem with getting the tacks in and keeping the panel level, so I'm pleased with that. Now I've got pretty much the number of tacks I need, and I'll now proceed with the continuous TIG weld. Hopefully I won't get any blow through, but if I do, I'm sure I can fix that up. I completed the weld. Very little distortion, just a little bit of reshaping with a dolly and flapper, but it's come out quite okay. Haven't completely finished it in terms of a final shaping of the panel, but as with other repair sections, I'll leave that until I come back to the entire guard and refinish it. Now, I received some feedback on my last posting regarding the overlapping flange at the end of the panel, and it does provide a thick section on the edge just where the overlap occurs. The suggestion was you should butt weld that and avoid the overlap. Now, unfortunately, I'd already welded the flange in, so I've gone back and cut that off and put a butt weld in, and certainly it makes the edge of the panel much neater. I'm not worried about it in here, because that can be filled if it's a concern, but it certainly is visible when you open the bonnet. Particularly on the edge there, you'll see an unusual fat section. Anyway, I've rectified that, and thanks for the feedback.